Hello, everybody. This is the Force for Good Show podcast. My name is Damon Friedman. I'm here to provide a general report on where we are today, ever since the attack from Hamas against Israel. Earlier on, I shared a podcast on how did it all began. I highly recommend that many of you get informed. It's crazy how many people don't really understand what's actually happening and where it all started. And it all started off when the Jewish state was established, and a place for the Palestinians and the Jews to, as a country, as a residence, as a community. And of course, during that time frame, the Arabs disagreed, and a war broke out. That's how it all started. And if you want to learn more, check it out. How Israel and Gaza, where it all started. So today, I want to just kind of give you a general brief and then kind of dive down. We've been at this war for a couple weeks now with Hamas, and and tensions continue to build in the north, and Israel has begun to try to evacuate the residents from different places throughout Gaza. Just a couple days ago, there's a city of Kiryat Shimona, which is heavily populated. It's about over 20,000 residents, and they're being taken out and going to hotels and other venues that are safe places, some safe houses. And that is just one example of what Israel is trying to do, the IDF going in and trying to save innocent lives. And this is really what it's about. Most of what I'm going to be sharing is obviously there's a war, and there's going to be battle, and there's going to be blood, and there's going to be guts, and there's going to be all sorts of craziness. And the reality is we want to make sure that if we're going to be conducting war, that we do it right. That's kind of an oxymoron, right? Because there's always civilian casualties. There's always unfortunate circumstances happening. So moving forward, there's just so many rockets being launched from Lebanon to Israel. I want to mention that in particular. Just a couple days ago, the report started and shared that over 30 rockets were launched to Israel, and most of them were intercepted. Some of them kind of fell into some open fields, but one in particular, rocket fell into Kiryat Shimona, causing some injuries. I want to just tell you that, honestly, 14, all these rockets, and many of them are not hitting Israel and its destination, and that's great. That means that we're doing something right. We're protecting as many innocent people as possible. I'm going to just tell you right now, since the attack from Hamas, Israel is in the right. And I want to take a moment real quick because my next statement is Israel hopes to avoid further escalation in the north. They really do. Just yesterday, I saw a shirt of a gentleman at one of my son's races, and I said, "Free Palestine." And I wanted to have a conversation with him. It's very, very important that people understand that not all Palestinians are terrorists. They're not. But all everyone who's in Hamas is a terrorist. Understand the difference. And so, Israel wants peace with Palestine. They do. They really do, with the Palestinian people. But it continues to have this tension, and I talked about this rise up in Gaza and how Hamas took over, and since then, there hasn't been any type of elections. They've just kind of dominated in tyranny. And so Israel, as they avoid for any further escalation in the north, there's still several strikes, several more Hezbollah sites overnight, day after day, all sorts of rockets and missiles fired on northern Israel. It's crazy. So as Israel still hopes to avoid further escalation in the north, there's still going to be more war. Now, separately, the IDF has carried out drone strikes, many drone strikes, killing all sorts of terrorists, one in particular, an operative in the area. And the U.S. is continually warning Hezbollah to stay out of the war with Hamas. And I'm here to tell you that I don't know if Hezbollah is going to get involved. I hope that they don't. That is going to increase in escalation. I'm here to tell you. And just a few days ago, the U.S. and Germany called on the citizens in Lebanon to leave the country immediately. It's too bad. I've got some good friends from Lebanon, and they cry out for peace, to end terrorism, extreme terrorism, to end this buffoonery. And it's going to continue. I, like anybody else, wants peace in the Middle East. And the reality is that I don't think it's ever going to happen. I served 20 years in the military. I know what it's like to fight. I know what war looks like. I know what it feels like. I know its loss. I know the blood shed on the battlefield. I mean, it's crazy how you can just conduct war year after year, decade after decade, and you still don't find a conclusion. There's no peace. A perfect example is Afghanistan. Well, what were we doing there? 20 years to close it out the way it did? Well, what did we accomplish? Man, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of similarities. There really are with this war. Israel, unlike America, is surrounded by enemies all around. So here we are, and in America, I mean, the only border we're concerned about right now, obviously, is in the south. And of course, last thing we want are more planes crashing in the United States, right? So Israel's like surrounded. I mean, they don't have the luxury at all that we in America have, in the United States of America. So going back, so some latest developments that I gathered together for bullets. Once again, there's just every night, every day, sirens are going off. Sporadic rocket attacks are constantly being resumed, and just recently there was a significant barrage fired at Tel Aviv. It's crazy. So of course Israel strikes more than 100 targets in Gaza, and definitely one that killed a member of Hamas naval forces. A leader who was involved in the murder of Israeli civilians on October 7th. And so Israel's just continuing to try to defend its borders, but also kind of, can I say, eradicate the terrorists? Is it not okay to say that? To eradicate the terrorists? So the military also hit an underground tunnel, and for many of you that don't know, there are tunnels all over Gaza. It's crazy. I know that I read this in particular. When the military hit this particular tunnel, it was a warehouse of weapons, of dozens, and dozens of command centers. So they're just out there. They're just firing. They're targeting, and they're as precise as possible. Now, also, intelligence sources suggest that Israel is working on a rescue plan for more than 200 hostages being held by Hamas. I really want to dive in deep into this, but I'm not able to do that right now. I'm going to tell you right now, my heart really goes out to them. I know what hostage rescue situations look like. A lot of times the hostages don't survive. And especially with this extreme terrorist network, Hamas, I mean, they're ruthless. I mean, they're killing innocent women and children, and they don't even care. They're not even batting an eye. They're killing children. They're abducting them. They're kidnapping them. They're raping them. They're killing. They're literally stabbing and cutting their heads off, and they're burning their bodies. It's not looking good for the hostages. What is our president, United States president, doing? Well, he's now requesting billions of dollars in emergency aid to Israel. Billions of dollars. Last time I checked, it was $14 billion. We'll see where this goes. I know that there's another shipment of military supplies that landed in Israel from the United States. Armored vehicles and all sorts of equipment. Anything to help protect and to continue the aggressive engagement against extreme terrorists in Gaza. I know that a U.S. Navy warship that was traveling in near Yemen, and I'm going to tell you there's some crazy stuff happening out there in Yemen in that area. But I know that they intercepted multiple projectiles. The missiles, according to the Israeli media, citing the Pentagon, that these missiles were launched at Israel. At the end of the day, our State Department, our U.S. State Department is working hard, and I really, really appreciated the position, the affirmation of Israel's position and goal, and that is this. This is very important, very, very, very important. That the Jewish state position that Hamas must be out from Gaza is appropriate. That's what they're saying. That the Jewish state's position, Israel, you got to out Hamas from Gaza. Period. We're looking across the nation. There's thousands of pro-Israel demonstrators held. A big rally in New York Times Square, calling for the release of the Hamas-held hostages. That's good. Good protesting. Good protesting. A number of speakers addressed the event remotely, including our U.S. Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, and New York Mayor Eric Adams. I appreciate that. So there's a lot going on. Meanwhile, let's talk about something that kind of dominated the news. Supposedly, a rocket from Israel was shot and then landed in a hospital, killing hundreds of innocent people in the hospital. Right? There was bad intelligence provided, and the reality is that Hamas said that all these hundreds of people were killed, when in reality that's not what happened. What ended up happening was that Hamas fired a rocket. It went derelict, right? And it literally went around and it hit the parking lot. And I guess now the intelligence is showing that nobody was killed. I'm sure somebody was hurt. So it was like, well, originally it was 471 people were killed in the hospital. Then there was a report saying, well, it was less than 50. Now it's like, okay, nobody was there. It's crazy how media gets it wrong. It's crazy how fast everybody jumped on this bandwagon. Oh, Israel did it. I'm here to tell you that Israel's not going to purposefully try to kill innocent women and children. They're not. Now, are there bad players in the IDF? Yeah, there are. But the majority of them are good players. Are there bad players in the U.S. military? Absolutely there are. But the majority of U.S. military forces are good people, and they're trying to do the right thing. And I believe that Israel and the IDF are doing the same thing. But here in this case, it wasn't that situation at all. Hamas failed to prosecute a target. In fact, Hamas failed to launch the rocket appropriately. And it landed in its own turf. Just making sure that everybody out there is informed. Now, according to Israel's finance minister, the government is currently preparing an economic aid package for those impacted by the war, and supposedly it'll be bigger and more, broader than whatever happened during the COVID crisis. This is how they mentioned it. So it's really just kind of an explanation of and the dedication and commitment of how much resources and funding is going to be provided. Honestly, you need to provide as much as you can, possibly, for these families, especially the displaced ones. Anyway, as we're going on and on and on, I found it very interesting. The Saudi Arabian prince issued, a surprising statement condemning Hamas for the attack on Israel, saying this attack contravened the rules of Islam. This is huge. They're saying what you're doing is not right. The doctrines that drive you don't support your actions. That's right. It doesn't support your actions. He said that Islam does not allow the killing of women and children and the elderly. So what's going on here? And it's true. And he also said at the same time, he also said that all occupied people have the right to fight against occupation. I mean, so I understand what he's trying to say. I understand that he's trying to be as supportive as possible. I'm not quite sure exactly what you can do in this situation. If you're Palestinian and you're trying to figure out how to survive all of this. Because like I said early on, there are a lot of really good Palestinian people. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know that a lot of Palestinians do not want to fight any longer. They do not want a war. They don't. They want to live in peace. But these extreme terrorist networks, they're the ones driving the train. They're driving the train. My biggest fear is homophobia with the Muslims around the world. I'm going to tell you, when I was serving in the military, I served 20 years, and especially when I was in Iraq, I was attached to a special forces team, and we did, we were knocking on doors in the middle of the night looking for high-value targets, bad people putting bombs in middle schools and killing people in marketplaces. And you know what? Part of our protective security detail, we had Muslims. Muslims that hated what Al-Qaeda and the Taliban were doing. Even to the point where they were fighting against them. Because they wanted a free nation. They wanted a free country. They wanted their people to be free from terrorism. I fear, the people of Palestine, they're good people. I know a lot of good people. There are a lot of bad Palestinians, just like there are a lot of bad Israelis. But the majority of Israelis, I'm going to say, are good people. They are, and they don't want to fight. So here's the deal. My time's ran out. I gave you a quick brief on what's happening in the latest developments. This is an atrocity, and I'm praying that the least amount of killing would happen. I'm going to tell you right now, war is hell, and it sucks. It does. It really, really does. And my heart goes out to those innocent people that are watching the bursting bombs going back and forth. But I also am 100% supportive of Israel closing with and destroying and annihilating a terrorist network that would do the horrific things that it did. It doesn't matter if you're Hamas. You could be Al-Qaeda. You could be the Taliban. I don't care. If you do that, I'm hoping that you get hunted down and you get taken out, because the world is better off if you're gone. My name is Damon Friedman, and this is the Force for Good Show podcast. Godspeed.